Here I am again with author, reviewer, raconteur, David Bateman. Tell me, David, you've got a number of poetry books, and I think poetry has been a wonderful salve for people stuck at home during the pandemic. Tell me about your poetry books.
Well, my poetry books, I wrote poetry for a very long time, and I wasn't published other than maybe odd, very inexpensively made chapbook made in, I had a couple in my 30s and 40s. I didn't start to write poetry on that became published in collection form until I was in Calgary, and I was around 42, so it's just over 20 years ago now. And I was at a launch for a performance artist, Shauna Dempsey and Laurie Milan, out of Winnipeg, but it was in Calgary at McNally Robinson Bookstore, and I read some of my poetry as part of the introduction and the entertainment that evening. And I like to say in my first poetry, it was a Lana Turner moment in my first poetry book, because I was discovered, unlike suddenly and out of the blue. And I say that, and by the woman who ran Frontenac House Press, Rose Scollard, with her partner David Scollard. It's now run by another wonderful group of people, Micheline Taylor and Neil Petruniak, and they published my first four poetry books: Invisible Foreground, Tis Pity, Designation Youth, and Impersonating Flowers, over a 10 to 12 year period.
Wow.
They also published a collaborative long poem that I wrote with my friend Hiromi Goto, who is primarily a novelist, but she was just involved. I think she either won or was shortlisted for the CBC Poetry Prize recently, and
cool.
has a new novel coming out, a graphic novel. Hiromi lives in the West, and her novel is called Shadow Life.
Oh, wow.
So I love writing poetry. I always have, and I always wanted to write a novel, and I kept trying and kept starting one. As I said earlier in another interview with you, Glenda,
Yeah.
the biggest motivation was to finally finish a novel was a nice big grant that paid me for a year. So I hate to say that it's all about money, and it's not all about money, but poetry was easier to write a couple of poems and not get paid than it was to sit down and write a whole novel, which took a year, and I got paid fairly well. So.
Well, that's very encouraging for up and coming writers. There is a carrot out there to be dangled. You just have to land it.
Yes, you wait till you don't give up just because you're pushing 50. Now I'm pushing 70, so there you go. So if I'd given up so no, don't give up, just keep it up. It might happen.
Thanks, David. Great advice.